But first, it was a drug dealer's paradise.
The drug problem in southeastern Kentucky is beyond anything I can imagine. It's epidemic.
Then one small town put its dealers on notice.
But we're praying for you to get saved or be busted.
And you won't believe the results.
What in the world is going on here?
Well, welcome to the 700 Club. It looks like, but first, get saved or get busted. That's the notice the townspeople gave to drug dealers in Manchester, Kentucky. They put the rest in God's hands.
A holy thing took place that it's hard to tell. It's like telling somebody what chocolate tastes like. You can beat around the bush, but you can't hardly get there. It's just such a holy thing that's happened.
A holy thing. Watch how a determined group of people battle the drug culture in their community and won. Clay County, Kentucky, in the Appalachians. The younger generation was literally dying off. That's how bad the drug problem had gotten in what was known as the painkiller capital of America, Manchester, Kentucky. But not anymore, thanks to an extraordinary turn of events that began with a simple march.
On May 2nd, 2004, despite the unseasonably cold temperatures and a pouring rain, some 3,500 people, representing about 63 churches in Clay County, Kentucky, marched through town to send the drug dealers a message.
This is my home. Don't plan on going nowhere. Drug dealers ain't running me off the creek. This is where I live.
In what many believe was the key to that march, the pastors of Clay County from every denomination repented and asked God to forgive them for being more concerned about their buildings and programs than the people of Clay County.
Lord, as pastors, as churches, as Christians, as citizens, we have too long hid our heads in the sand and have not stood up to the evil and the poison of drugs in this county, in this community.
We had an official said this week, I don't want to be negative, but he said if it rains, there won't be 300 people show up. He needs to come out and count. That moment, something broke in Clay County, Manchester, Kentucky, that has changed us forever. God settled in our community, and a holy thing took place that it's hard to tell. It's like telling somebody what chocolate tastes like. You can beat around the bush, but you can't hardly get there. It's just such a holy thing that's happened.
Even as the presence of God hovers like this early morning mountain mist, Abner admits kicking out the demons that have haunted these hills for decades won't be easy. With a population of only 2,200 people, Manchester looks from the outside like your typical quaint little country hamlet. But the truth is, Manchester and all of southeastern Kentucky has been a haven for violence, corruption, and drugs since as long as folks around here can remember. The forests make it a perfect place to grow large quantities of marijuana. But the drug of choice now for both users and dealers is painkillers. Eastern Kentucky was recently named the painkiller capital of the nation, the most popular being a prescription drug called Oxycontin and homemade methamphetamine. The drug problem had gotten so bad, the younger generation of Clay County was literally dying off.
The drug problem in southeastern Kentucky is beyond anything I can imagine. It's epidemic.
But since that march through the streets of Manchester just a little over a year ago, Hayes says there's been a new commitment by law enforcement to combat the drug problem. A drug task force called Unite is now partnering with churches and is seeing great results. Arrests are up by about 300% in the last year and a half.
God was hearing our prayers. And after we prayed and we humbled ourselves and we asked for help, He was faithful. And he came to our aid, and now we're seeing a lot of changes take place.
Not only are arrests way up, but so are the testimonies of former addicts like 25-year-old Melinda Adams.
And here come 12 police officers, and I call them my blue angels, because God answered my prayer. He got me out of it, and since that night I ain't been the same.
Adams, who's from a prominent Clay County family, had been in and out of jail and secular treatment centers for years for using and making methamphetamine. She was literally at death's door when one night, hiding in a closet, she cried out to God for help.
When no one else would have fooled with me, when no one else cared whether I lived or died, when everybody had gave up on me, He was a God that came down and stood with me in that closet and said, I've got you. You know, you're mine. And He ain't left me since that day.
Well, hell, there's power, power, oh, there's wondrous working power in the blood of the Lamb.
Abner believes it's the message of tough love and the power of prayer that have broken the spell of drugs off so many lives. Even Bobby Joe Curry, once one of the most feared drug dealers in all of eastern Kentucky, now a regular churchgoer at Community Church.
Well, it's hard to believe the high I'm on now. Before I was down on a high. I'd get up every morning and be sick and stuff, and feel bad the next day. If I stay up all night, I'd be sick. But I got saved and I stayed up 2 nights, and I felt so good, and the best high I ever had. What we're trying to do with drug users and drug dealers is to say, listen, you're doing wrong and you need to stop. But we're here to help you, and we want you to know we're your friend, not your enemy. But we're praying for you to get saved or be busted.
42-year-old Steve Collette had been busted more times than he cared to remember. But one night, fresh out of this county prison and with nowhere else to go, he found himself spending the night in an outhouse near the jail. He took us back to the parking lot where it happened. Although the outhouse was gone, the memories of the night he shivered in the cold and gave his life to Jesus Christ came flooding back.
I said, God, you know, Lord, I've been through all this in life, and I've been on the run, you know, I've been shocked. I've died twice one time and on a drug overdose, and God's not, you know, He's not let me go. I said, God, just show me. I mean, you know what, that you're real.
Today, Steve is drug-free and a committed Christian, thanks to a discipling program called Lifeline that he received at Community Church. No longer selling drugs, he now earns a living as a handyman at this gift shop in downtown Manchester. And Adams, whose father is the superintendent of Clay County Schools, has helped lead her whole family into a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ.
How does it feel to have your daughter back?
Well, that's an indescribable feeling, really. You know, it's hard to answer that. You know, you almost have to answer it with the way our life was before, while she was on drugs, and the way it is now. You know, it's a joy to get up of a morning. You sleep longer at night. You know, there's joy in your home again.
Seeing the amazing transformation of his daughter after she gave her life to Christ, Adams recently gave the okay for the county schools to implement a Christian Bible study called First Priority that students can do before and after class, something he'd previously been opposed to for fear of possible lawsuits.
Sometimes we err on the side of being almost atheistic. And so what caused me to really err on the side of being Christian? Well, I got saved, you know.
Abner says there's not a single area of the community that hasn't been touched by God in some way since the March of Commitment in May 2004.
There's just a difference here. You can feel the Spirit of the Lord when you walk through our town and drive through our city. And then the neat thing, we have people come and they've maybe lived up north, but they're from Manchester, and they come home and they'll say when you see them, what in the world is going on here? And that just breaks my heart, but it makes me feel so good that people outside of here can sense the difference as the Spirit of God has hovered in this little valley in Manchester, Kentucky.
Prayer works, ladies and gentlemen. And what did those churches say? We were so more concerned with our buildings and our programs than we were with the people. And they repented before God and said, God, we're going to change. And when the churches changed and repented, God said, I hear your prayer, and I will fix your community. That's exactly what God says.